Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Clash Royale. As promised, we're going to talk about how to counter this annoying as hell PEKKA deck. I hate this deck. I feel like I go against it every other battle in the CRL challenge. It has the second, as of this morning on Stats Royale, the second highest win percentage. It's everywhere and it's really annoying. So I have so many great videos in store for you guys. I might double upload on the weekend to kind of catch up. I want to finish up on some 20-win decks and then we'll kind of move into the usual stuff that we do here. So anyway, getting back to the subject at hand today, right, is how to deal with this deck. So in order to understand how to deal with the deck, we need to talk about how it wins. What is the win condition in this annoying PEKKA control deck? Well, first off, it's a control deck, right? It's going to be able to stop pretty much anything you can throw at it. The only archetype, the only deck that it's even semi-weak against is Bait, because it didn't have any great answer to the Goblin Barrel. Other than that, you're pretty much in a tricky situation. So what I want to do today is give you guys the tools that you need to have at least confidence, if not winning every single match. I'm not going to promise you guys false promises here, but give you guys a game plan, a battle plan every time you enter the arena against this deck is going to be the goal of the video. So let's first talk about the win condition. The win condition in this deck is Miner, okay? Miner is going to be doing a lot of chip damage along with the Goblin Hut, so Miner Goblin Hut can be really annoying. You can lose just off Miner Poison and Goblin Hut. Forget about the rest of the cards in this deck. So always be aware that the Miner and the Poison, especially, are going to be the two cards that you really want to pay attention to when it comes to keeping track of your opponent's deck. Keeping track of where the Miner is and where the Poison is going to be paramount in order to get success playing against this deck. Okay, let's talk about the double elixir time versus single elixir time. In double elixir time, they can also get really big counter pushes against you. Let's say you go with a golem, a giant, or whatever. Or a hog. They can use their PEKKA and then come at you with some bridge spam with like Royal Ghost. They can have their poison ready and send in a Miner. That can be really hard to stop. So that's their other method of offense, especially that you have to be aware of in double elixir time. So what does that mean for you, the person playing against this deck? It means don't overcommit on your pushes against this deck unless you absolutely know that you've got them dead to rights, okay? So you have a big elixir advantage or you know they don't have a good counter in hand. Other than that, you shouldn't be sending in like, you know, Hog Goblin Gang against this deck if you know they have enough elixir for Royal Ghost and Zappies or PEKKA or something like that unless you have a spell ready, okay? So just always be aware that this deck really has a counter to almost everything you can throw at it. So that's why, again, keeping track of Poison and Miner will be really important. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Before we get to the replays here, guys, I also wanted to share with you guys 3 weaknesses about this deck. 3 weaknesses. So weakness number 1 is there's no swarm cards. You can see there's no goblins, there's no bats, there's no minions, minion horde, any of those cards. So sometimes this deck can be lacking DPS, right? Obviously it has the big PEKKA for single target DPS. It has the flying machine for single target DPS, but no swarm, no splash damage. So a lack of splash, a lack of swarm cards. Number 2 is once they use their poison, they have no good answer for air swarm targets. So bats, minions, minion horde, they don't have a good answer. So when they use their poison, even this pertains to the Royal Ghost too. That's their one good ground swarm answer. So let's say they go on offense against you with Royal Ghost and then they poison. Well, you know that maybe you have a gang, maybe you have Miner Gang, maybe you have a minion horde. You can punish them in that situation. So always, as soon as you're matched up against this deck, let's say you're playing minion horde, and you go against this deck, you gotta be ready to realize that the minion horde is gonna be one of your best weapons when they don't have their poison in hand, okay? Number 3 weakness of this deck is both of the good air targeting cards, Zappies and Flying Machine, both die to Fireball, okay? That's really important because if you're playing an Expo matchup, even though you don't have a lot of air cards, you're gonna be saving your Fireball always for the Flying Machine. When you're playing Lava Loon against this deck, you always want to make sure you have your Fireball ready for every Lava Hound push, really, and don't be afraid to use it against Flying Machine or Zappies, whatever card they place down first. Okay, so let's talk about specific matchups really quickly, like lightning round here, and then we'll get into all the replays. So when you're going in with a heavier deck against this deck, like a Golem deck, for example, what I try to do is mitigate the damage in single elixir time, and then in double elixir time, try to pull off one big mammoth push. And even if that means losing a tower, go ahead and do so. And play into the P.E.K.K.A with this deck, okay? So I would say 99% of the time, I wouldn't be split laning pushing against this deck if I was playing a Golem deck, for example. What do I mean by that? I mean that you shouldn't send in the Golem, and then they drop the P.E.K.K.A, and then you go opposite lane with double Prince or something. That's not going to work because they're going to be able to stop you very easily with Zappies and with Royal Ghost or something. So definitely don't split lane push. Try to cash in on a mammoth push in double elixir time. When you're playing a Three Musketeer deck, try to get good horde value, and when poison is out of hand, definitely spam that horde on them. Also, Three Musketeer decks, sometimes you'll have to be splitting the Three Musketeers in double elixir time in front of your King Tower, and just keep cycling the Three Musketeers. They have a tough time keeping up with that. Lava Loon, save your fireballs for the Zappies. Of course, we talked about it, Flying Machine as well. Totally overrun them, overwhelm them. What else? Bait is an easy matchup. You want to rocket the Goblin Hut, and you want to make sure that you keep using the Goblin Barrel as much as possible, right? Keep sending in that Goblin Barrel. Be aggressive with your Goblin Barrel. Hog decks, you want to play around the Goblin Hut. So meaning, if they don't have the Goblin Hut in rotation, you want to send in your Hog aggressively before you have full elixir, because their other really good counter to Hog, obviously, is P.E.K.K.A. So if you can get the Hog down when you know they don't have the Hut in play, you can get that Hog usually to the tower before they have enough elixir to drop the P.E.K.K.A. They'll have to drop a late P.E.K.K.A after they've already taken 2 or 3 hits on the Hog. We'll show a lot of Hog gameplay in a second. Against Graveyard decks, like normal with Graveyard, you want to make sure you bait out their poison, and you don't go in for super aggressive Graveyards if they have poison, okay? So do not send in a Graveyard push with poison if they have poison in hand. Using like a naked Graveyard in some situations might be okay, but just be very cautious of that. Expo decks, you want to use defensive Expo in the first 2 minutes against this deck. Shout out to that one guy for providing me kind of a game plan, a blueprint. So Expo, use defensive Expos in the first 2 minutes. Wait for them to overcommit. So sending in a miner to the tower, a naked miner to the tower, or poisoning your defensive Expo is going to be your opportunity to cycle back to another Expo and try to punish them because they overcommitted on the other end. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some replays. First, we're going to share one by yours truly, because I just went against this deck in a CRL challenge. So let's go ahead and kind of walk you through my decision making, and then we'll take you into some pro gameplay as well, guys. So I don't obviously know what deck I'm going against just yet, but we're going to start out with an Elixir Pump. Obviously a pretty good starting hand here for yours truly. So at this point, I see the Goblin Hut, and I just assume he's playing the deck, right? I mean, here it is, Goblin Hut, yay. So I predict that miner very well. If you're going to use your Goblin Gang to predict any sort of a miner on your pump, make sure you place the gang to the side of the pump, never, never, never in front of the pump, because oftentimes they'll send in the log at the same time. So here we go. This version of the deck, by the way, is using log instead of zap, so you see both versions. So you can see he uses his poison. I talked about this, guys. I said this is the key to a Three Musketeer matchup, and it's exactly what happens. He used his poison on offense against my pump, and then I knew right away. I was like, okay, I'm going to send in the minion horde, because he doesn't have an answer for it, because I know this deck already, right? He has Zappies, and you saw what great of a job Zappies did against that combo. So after this, I pretty much won the match, honestly, guys. I'm just going to keep trying to protect my pump and keep pumping, right? So I'll go double speed from here on out, because after I've gotten that much damage, even though I don't have a direct damage spell, I know that I'm sitting pretty in this matchup, I should say. Okay, so here he goes. It's a horde on the P.E.K.K.A. He opts not to use poison this time. You can see he's a little trigger shy now in the poison, and that will happen. I get the left tower down with my miner, and then any swarm units are great against Zappies. So either the horde or the Goblin Gang is absolutely perfect. Now I kind of got a read off him that he's always going to send the miner to the side of the pump, so I was able to predict that miner. And at this point, you know I have him. It's just a matter of, hey, where do you want to use your poison? And he's kind of sitting on it at this point because he doesn't know where to best use it. So I'm just going to keep cycling here. I can get back to my minion horde, and that's going to be GG. He uses the poison there. It doesn't matter. It's too late. Almost got the 3 crown, just was stopped by time. So, guys, let me go ahead and switch over to some other pro gameplay. Be right back at you right now. Okay, guys, so here we are. We're going to start out with simple. Obviously, guys, I don't have time to show you every single deck matchup in the world, but I figure we'll do a Golem deck, we'll do Hog Cycle, we'll do Balloon Cycle, we'll do Three Musketeers, which I already showed you, obviously. So let's get right into it here with Simple. Now, Simple's been playing this deck. He's been dominating with it. This is like his quintessential deck. And here, you know, right early off, we talked about this. You're going to try to play around the Goblin Hut. And Goblin Hut players will often place their first hut dangerously low, like his opponent did here, because they want to protect their hut from, you know, say a princess or a magic archer or a flying machine or a musketeer played at the bridge on the other side of the arena. So if they do that, you can often sneak by for a few hits right to start off the match. That's exactly what Simple did. So a great start for Simple here. One thing about Simple, and you guys already know this, but if you're playing a deck, goes for bait or hog decks with princess, try to protect her, obviously, right? So here comes the opponent coming in pretty heavy here on the left, but we had mini P.E.K.K.A with goblins in tow to help out there on the left. We mitigate the damage down to 1916, and now this is what I was talking about, guys. I said this during the intro to the video, right? But sometimes you'll know your opponent has P.E.K.K.A in hand, but you go in early, even if you don't have a lot of elixir yourself. That's exactly what Simple just did there, able to take that right tower down to 866. He's always going to make sure he saves his Ice Golem to kite the P.E.K.K.A or kite the Royal Ghost. You can both kite the P.E.K.K.A and Royal Ghost into the opposite lane using your Ice Golem with this deck. Obviously very important to do so. He attacks again, keeps his pedal to the metal, so to speak, with that Hog Rider again, going in when he knew his opponent didn't have enough elixir to defend with P.E.K.K.A. So this is what it's all about here. You're going to see the same thing with Balloon Cycle, especially when you get into double elixir time. Oftentimes you can outcycle the opponent's counters. So even though this opponent really has, this deck I should say, really has 2 if not 3 great counters to the Hog Rider, Simple's still able to get around that, and he uses a great rocket value here defensively. Also uses rocket against the Goblin Pump for a -1 elixir trade. But did I say the Goblin Pump? Goblin Hut. I hope I didn't. Anyway, against the Goblin Hut for a -1 elixir trade. You know, you don't like to do it, but that's just how strong Goblin Hut is right now inside the game, right? You need to use rocket against it if you're a rocket deck player. I mean, you don't have to, especially if it's close to the end of the match, but if it's early in the match, you really should. So let's watch one more Hog matchup against the same deck, but we want to, you know, that time it was basically a story of Simple attacking when he was low on elixir with the Hog, when he knew his opponent was also low on elixir. So he sees the Zappies split behind the King Tower and knows it pretty much is just a 3 Musketeer deck or a P.E.K.K.A deck most likely. This time the opponent did have the P.E.K.K.A in hand to counter that Hog Rider before he gets any damage in. So now Simple knows exactly what deck the opponent is playing here. He's still going to go ahead and kite this P.E.K.K.A even though he has a lot coming at him in the left lane and a Dark Prince and a Zappy behind it. So P.E.K.K.A is going to do a great job against Dark Prince. Obviously P.E.K.K.A will always win that battle, and then you can see his mini P.E.K.K.A, excuse me, and you can see his opponent's P.E.K.K.A now is in the opposite lane with about 50% health. So even though the opponent has poison in hand, you can do something really pretty here, and you just make sure you space out your troops appropriately there. So he plays goblins way down at the river. He has the princess near the princess tower. The opponent wasn't able to poison both of those targets. He was able to finish off that P.E.K.K.A. With the deck that Simple is playing, he can really take advantage of the Ice Golem to kite, the mini P.E.K.K.A for the Dark Prince, and then his bats and goblins can do serious work, especially if he's baiting out the log and the poison of the opponent with his princess. So I'm not sure if this guy's playing Zap version or Log version. I kind of missed it. Either way, we're fine with this deck in this matchup. So you can see here things are pretty even. We're about halfway through this match here. And Simple right now, kind of an awkward hand. He's probably just going to cycle Bats in the back. So here comes Bats. His opponent doesn't respond. So look at this. He knows his opponent has P.E.K.K.A in hand. So why would he send in the Hog? It's not a smart idea. So he sent in the Bats first to hopefully protect for the Princess. Even though the Princess actually did die to that Miner, he's still able to get a lot of chip damage here. He's forcing his opponent to make uncomfortable plays. You can see that this is the same matchup as last match, But because the opponent isn't making any glaring mistakes, Simple's able to just play it a little bit differently, right? And you can see he's playing a princess at the bridge here. Like he's being unorthodox in his attack style, and he's getting that tower chipping away slowly but surely with the princess there. So now he logs the Zappies on the left. The opponent does go ahead and poison, so he's going to play his bats and goblins as close as he can to the P.E.K.K.A. And again, taking advantage of, again, how we set the table in the beginning of this video, guys, is there's no good anti-swarm troops, especially air. So really leaning heavily on the bats. The bats are probably the MVP of this matchup. He does get a lock on to that tower from the flying machine, but Mini P.E.K.K.A. is there to kind of clean up a little bit, take care of that miner, and then kite the Dark Prince all the way into the opposite lane with the Ice Golem there, and here comes the rocket to finish things off. So you guys can see two real methods with cycle decks of beating this matchup that is so annoying. Let's look at a Golem deck here played by Kiwi Clasher. Shout out to Kiwi Clasher, a longtime supporter of the channel, and he got 20 wins using this really heavy. I mean, when you're rolling the deck that Kiwi Clasher is playing, ladies and gentlemen, you know that you're always the big dog. Any matchup that you have, no one's going to have a heavier deck than you do. So it's a Golem 3 Musketeer deck. So how is he going to handle it with a Golem 3 Musketeer deck? Another really smart player. He's going to make some really smart moves that I'll point out to you guys throughout this match. So here it comes. It's a Dark Prince into the flying machine. He's going to play the minion horde here. There's the minion horde. So he plays the minion horde. He baits out a poison right out the gate. So check this out. We have a 1 elixir advantage. We're going to go ahead and play the pump here. We know he doesn't have poison, so we're in a really great situation. Now, this is what I talked about earlier on in the video when I was showing my replay, guys. Here comes the 5 elixir miner plus log onto the pump. He still was able to save an elixir out of that pump, and he played the Goblin Gang to the left or to the right of the pump, to the side of the pump, depending on which angle you're looking at, right? His left, our right. So, or his right, our left. There we go, Ash. Come on, man. Your right and your left. It's tricky, ladies and gentlemen. The next video will be how to learn your left and your rights. Okay, so here we go. 3 Musketeer push for Kiwi, and he's always going to wait till the very last second to drop his secondary troop. It's going to be a Dark Prince in the left lane. He's also going to go with bats. This is going to be huge here because he knows the opponent does not have zap. He has no answer for these bats. Bats MVP again. He's going to take that left tower down, ladies and gentlemen. This time we have the minion horde here in the right. The opponent doesn't have enough elixir to even play a poison, even if he or she wanted to. And check that out, guys. Just like that. Now, when you split Musketeers using this deck, you better be sure, you better be prepared for the opponent to always drop the P.E.K.K.A. on the 2 Musketeers. So always try to go all in with the best that you can. If you're playing a deck with bats, it's perfect for this matchup, right? Because you can go in with a bats, Dark Prince, and single Musketeer and take down the tower like we saw Kiwi do here. So from here on out, let's go ahead and watch how he handles this. Now check this out. He plays the 3 Musketeers behind the Golem, knowing that the opponent would be able to cycle back to poison in time. And he did that on purpose. He's going to give the poison value, and now we're going to start spamming the horde in the pocket. Check that out. We baited out the poison. The Musketeer is actually still going to live, so the Musketeer is still helping out there, even though she only has like 20% health, and we're just going to spam the heck out of this opponent here. And you can see, even with the P.E.K.K.A., we're still able to get a lot of damage to that right tower, taking it down to, man, we almost took it out, guys. Check that out. Golem is still alive, Golemites, and here it is. That tower is down, ladies and gentlemen. There's the 3 crown. Boom. Man, you guys can see that if you play your cards correctly, pun intended, I guess, you can really win against this match. So here we go again. Let's watch Pompeo versus that one guy. So this is from the Pro V Pro. All the rest of the content was the first time you've seen it on the channel, but I thought we could review this matchup, mainly because Pompeo is playing with a really difficult high skill cap balloon miner cycle deck. And you're going to see Pompeo really be aggressive towards the end of this match. And it's what I wanted to point, that's exactly what I wanted to point out to you, because it kind of illustrates another weakness that this deck can have, especially when you're going against, or when you're playing a lighter deck, a cheaper deck than the P.E.K.K.A. deck. So here we go. This time, great fireball value here for Pompeo. That one guy playing the flying machine just a little bit too close to that goblin hut, even though obviously the magic archer also dies. He was able to get a decent amount of damage. So here comes a little push here for that one guy. And you know, when you play against this deck, your opponent's going to do that. They're going to drop the Royal Ghost at the bridge at times, be a little bit more aggressive with their pushes, so you have to be ready for that. Now here we go with the first balloon attack here for Pompeo in the left lane. Now that one guy's almost always going to be able to get to his hut in time to kind of prevent the balloon from hitting the tower. But you're going to see very soon here, Pompeo's going to really start turning up the heat with the balloon. He's just going to start cycling and cycling and cycling, and eventually he'll get that balloon to the tower. So here we go. We're lightly defending with the Mega Minion in the right lane. We're going to use guards on that Royal Giant. This balloon's not going to get to the tower, but it's going to die right in front of the tower. So here it goes. A fireball saved always for the flying machine in this matchup, and the death damage does take that tower down to 1485. So here we go again, relentlessly, another minor balloon ice golem. The opponent, that one guy, is forced to play another hut here. We're going to back it up with a Mega Minion. Just really, really nice gameplay here. Really aggressive by Pompeo. And Pompeo, again, is going to repeat. That one guy plays a P.E.K.K.A at the bridge, but guess what? We have guards in hand. We're going to cycle to them. Unfortunately, P.E.K.K.A actually does get one hit, but we get the balloon to the tower there. And I told you, that's what it's all about, is putting the pedal to the metal there and putting the pressure up if you have the cheaper deck. That was really well played there, so shout out to both of those guys. Shout out to all the pros that joined this channel today. We have Simple, we have Kiwi Clasher, we have, of course, Pompeo and that one guy providing me extra tips for Expo as well. Guys, I hope this episode has given you a little bit more of an understanding on how to go up against this notoriously popular and annoying deck. So guys, with that said, huge shout out to my YouTube partner, Brent Chong. Check out his information in the description below, along with Stats Royale win rates. I'll have all that stuff linked for you in the description. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.